How I want to start this video is no death is not worth celebrating. We should be good Christians, sensitive, and even when we meet people or know of people who are in dire heresy or heretic, we should reach out to them with love, compassion, and of course, sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. The problem with Catholicism or the Catholic Church, it started with the Roman Empire. If we look back in history, it was the Romans who crucified Christ, and they saw him as a rebel, and they crucified him. And of course, Christianity, as it was called, the Way, it wasn't called Christianity. It was called the Way because they were the followers of Jesus Christ who proclaimed to be the way, the truth, and the life. However, because Christianity, as it was formerly known as, was spreading throughout the Roman Empire, they began to realize that they cannot contain it. So I think it was Constantine. It's like Richard Branson. He knew that here was a product, if you like, that could not be controlled. So what do? You amalgamate into it and shift it from what was he supposed to originally stand for, and it became a political empire. Hence why the evolution of Catholicism does not bear any evidence or any relation to the true gospel that was taught by the disciples. The disciples wouldn't recognize the Catholic Church today. In its original form, the Mary worshipping, and of course the liberal indulgence that they are pertaining to and practicing in order to appease a modern world. Pope Francis, obviously the first thing, or one of the things he did, was to make women members of the dioceses in the Roman Curia. He maintained that the Catholic Church should be made more sympathetic towards members of the LGBTQ community, and stated that although blessings of the same unions are not permitted, he's only saying that because he doesn't want to upset the apple cart. He doesn't want to upset the billions of people who follow him, not Jesus Christ. They follow him, right? But he says that the individuals can be blessed. Blessed by who? By Jesus, by the Holy Spirit. The disciples would not be talking this way, so something is wrong. As long as the blessings are not given in a liturgical context. Francis was a critic of unbridled capitalism and consumerism, yet at the same time, he lived a life of wealth and indulgence. I did not see him riding around humbly like on a donkey. Jesus Christ, who was the King of Peace, the Prince of Peace, he went around on a donkey showing that those in leadership should set an example. We don't see that in the church today. The pastors, the popes, the bishops are driving around in limousines while the poor people are walking shoeless, bare feet. However, the Catholic Church, my phone's going to probably ignore it. The Catholic Church is a spam. Let me try to ignore it. God, the devil's working all the time today. It's a spam, okay? The Catholic Church has always evolved its theology, and it moves away from the Hebrew context of Christianity. It moves away from the Messianic hope and puts itself in the center of doctrine. It puts itself a bit like Seventh-day Adventist Ellen G. White becomes the spirit of prophetess. They put these people on a pedestal and Christ is diminished into the background. The problem with the Catholic Church is run by all males. They're corrupt and they've been involved with a lot of child sexual abuse scandal. Their theology is forever evolving to the point where the Pope argues that Islam and Christianity, are reading from the same book. He even have the audacity to kiss the Muslim book. And if you want to see where the New World Order is going to come from, look no further than the Catholic Church. If you could call it a church, it's an organization. That's my dog messing around. Come on, Woody. Right? It's an organization run by a Latino, Italian gangsters. You need to read, Where is All the Good Men From? And how the people or the popes were elected to the Catholic Church. It was nothing more than a criminal racket. But this is what happens when you take your mind off from Jesus Christ and you listen to these fake shepherds. This is what happens. You refuse to look at their history. You refuse to look at their doctrine. You refuse to look at their teachings. And you bow down to them like a golden calf. And you follow their heresy. Now, the late Pope Francis argues that Christians and Muslims are reading the same book. What is he saying? That when Muhammad denied the divinity of Christ, we're reading from the same book, we're worshiping the same God? When Muhammad denied the divinity of Christ, he denied that Jesus Christ died on the cross and rose again on the third day, which is what Easter is about. He denied that. Yet he's claiming that Christians and Muslims read from the same liturgy, the same book, the same meditation, the same psalms. And it's no wonder the Muslim world are mourning and the LGBTQ world are crying their eyes out. Because here is a man no different to Joel Osteen. He sits in the Vatican, tickling people's ears, telling them what they want to hear while he's surrounded by gold bullions. Surrounded by wealth, while on the other hand, attacking capitalism. We are taught you cannot worship God and money. You know, Pope Francis also criticized the rise of right-wing populism and called for the decriminalization of homosexuality. Can you imagine the disciples calling for the decriminalization of homosexuality? And Pope Francis even says he was even encouraging LGBTQ children to come out the closet. What kind of a pope who claims he's in touch with Jesus Christ, in touch with his holiness, would preach this kind of message? And it's no wonder that these kind of people that would worship at the grave of Joel Osteen, the same people that would worship at the grave of these prosperity preachers, are the same ones who are worshiping at the grave of Pope Francis. Jesus says, narrow is the way that leads to life. Narrow. The Catholic can boast 1 billion members. If your church or your organization has millions or thousands upon followers, you got to question their doctrine, because Jesus taught, not my words, that narrow is the way that lead to life, and broad is the way that lead to destruction. And the road to life, the narrow path, few, there's not my words, few there be that find it. The Catholic Church has 1 billion. 1 billion. The Church of England can boast millions. These top organizations can boast to have millions of followers, and Christ says narrow is the way that lead to life. Was he lying? Of course not. So you have to question your organization doctrines, their teachings, their heresy. When you try to worship Mary and calling her the mother of God, then you wonder that the Islamic religion got confused. The Islamic religion is calling Mary the Trinity. That's a bit of a video to go into. Even though Allah himself had the Trinity, I think it was Uzziah, 3 daughters Allah had, and that was part of the Trinity. Another video I'm going to make. Okay? But that's the reason why the Islamic religion got confused when they look at what the Catholic, the Babylonian teachings, the pagan teachings that the Catholic Church has brought in, that Mary is the mother of God, and it's called Mariology, and you can worship her. Where did Mary ever become divine? You tell me. When did Mary sit in the heavenly places, you know, being the eternal Father? But this is what they teach. She was there for all time. She's become divine. And this is what happens when you take your eyes off Jesus Christ and you follow these false teachers. I don't celebrate his death, unlike many cults around the world. I won't mention any names that will. But we are told in the last days, many will come, showing signs, miracles, and teaching false doctrines, doctrines of devils and demons, appeasing to the liberal world. Don't offend anyone. Now putting their fingers in the same pie as the Muslims, the same washing bowls. might even share the same ablution. It was said that Pope Francis even attended a Muslim mosque and kissed the Koran. The disciples would never have done that. And that's why Jesus says, you will know who is my disciples. You will know. And I put it to you that the Catholic Church, the organization, the old empire of antiquity, they are not Christ's disciples.